Well, yes, Mr. Laolu Akande joins us now. We're taking a look at a number of issues coming up today, yes, because the Supreme Court of Nigeria will be ruling on the case. Remember that they had already heard the last argument, but this morning, this afternoon at about 1 p.m., their lordships will be convening to give judgment on the matter concerning the African Democratic Congress and the case that it had brought before their lordships on the issue of leadership. So today, Nigerians will know the way forward. While we're expecting that in the courts, especially at the highest court in the land, I will also be taking a look at a number of other political issues. Yesterday, we saw the endorsement of Dr. Obafemi Hamzat as the governorship candidate for Lagos State, but also factoring in the opposition, the Ibadan convention, the convention that happened in Ibadan, as well as the race to the Lagos State Government House. Well, Mr. Laolu Akande is here, and you know he always has an insider view to these matters. He is the former presidential aide and also the presenter of Channels Television's Inside Sources. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you again, Marpe.
Indeed. Well, I'm sure that you are also keeping your eyes on the court as we all are, and tough decisions before their lordships this morning. What do you think?
Well, I think the nation is hoping that their lordships will try and find a way to not constrain the democratic space and enlarge it. Like they say, the Supreme Court is also a court of public policy, you know, and they also have the authority and the power to make certain statements and declarations, even if they are not directly pleaded, you know. So I'm hoping that they can give a conclusive ruling on the issues, such that, you know, we don't have to be going back and forth, all these several cases all over the place. It does no good to the public interest. Does a lot of good to the lawyers who are getting money to the banks, you know. But it's important that we have about a month for the primaries to kick in, that these matters are sorted, you know, so that people can focus on what it is that the politicians who are seeking public office wants to offer them. And then let's know what platforms are legitimate and legal or not. So I'm hoping that up or down, the Supreme Court can conclude, especially on the issue of PDP and ADC, so that we don't have to be going back and forth anymore.
What effect would you say the letter that was written to the chief judge of the Federation had on the dates that has now been set? Do you think it had any role to play?
I think we have to commend the courage, you know, or perhaps the boldness of Okutepa, the senior advocate who wrote that letter, because it is a matter of national importance. As a matter of fact, it's an urgent matter of national importance, you know. We don't know whether that was why. I imagine that the justices themselves had that understanding even before Mr. Okutepa wrote that letter. But I think it was a good thing to have that kind of boldness to say that, look, these matters are so important and time is of the essence. So I believe that both Okutepa and the Supreme Court justices, they understand the point about the time being of the essence.
Well, this is before this judgment came. We saw the meeting that happened, was it over the weekend, preceding this Thursday, the meeting that happened in Ibadan, your city. Ibadan, man, like you.
Great place.
Yes, you know, hosting very interesting, let's say, political events. What would you make of that meeting and the outcome, and perhaps what the judgment today could do for the meeting that was held in Ibadan?
Well, I think the idea of having the gladiators in the opposition coming together to analyze, you know, or to construct a united platform, I think it is good for our country, you know, regardless of the other intrigues and contradictions. It is good to say that, look, Nigerians deserve a choice in the elections. We deserve a choice. We don't want one party. You know, I don't think we go to one party anyway. But it is good to have politicians in the opposition say that, look, we want to work together. That is good. But I think they lost the opportunity to actually do what should have taken the matter a little bit forward, to say that we believe that the rotational principle of the presidency at this time has become a national consensus. You know, so that will help us to reduce, for instance, the ethnic dimensions in the contest for power at the highest level. So that if you know that it's coming up and then 8 years is going down, and we try to keep faith with that, it will help us, you know, to even build a nation with everybody having a sense of belonging. So I think the Ibadan meeting was great. You know, I commend the courage and the initiative of Seyi Makinde, the governor, for being able to come up with the idea and host the meeting, and spoke also very eloquently. But I think the Ibadan meeting missed the opportunity to say that, look, power should go to the south, and we will present a southern candidate. We will come together and agree to present a southern candidate to go head-to-head with a southern incumbent. I think they lost the opportunity.
Well, I'm sure that there are those who disagree with you on that. There are those who still believe very strongly that zoning should have no place in our country. There are those who think that where we are right now, we should only be discussing based on merits. That's their own belief. And a number of other issues that, you know, come to the fore when they discuss, you know, politics in general. But one of the things that the APC has pushed back against, you said that the governor of the state, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, spoke eloquently. They did not like his comments on Wetier and his reference to it. They thought that was a threat. What was your own reading of that, of the APC statement and their pushback on comments like that?
Okay, so let me first address the issue of merit and rotational principle. Rotational principle does not negate merit at all. You know, we can find people of merit in any part of this country.
Yeah, but just quickly add this to it, because as I was speaking and forming that question, something skipped my mind, which is the fact that the argument, part of the argument you have made for it is that it reduces tribal tensions. Yeah. Do not forget that the South is quite diverse as well, and we saw, we were still dealing with, especially on social media, the back and forth, or let's say the effects of the 2023 elections, particularly between the supporters of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Governor Peter Obi. You know, there is still that tension, which brings to the fore this, you know, the tensions of Biafra that still haven't evaporated. So I don't know, for those who make the argument that this reduces tribal tension, does it really reduce, or do we have to get specific? When it goes to the south, it is the turn of these people. When it goes to the north, it is the turn of this region. Do we have to be that specific if indeed what we're trying to do is be inclusive and also reduce things like tribal tensions in our country?
I believe, and thank you for raising that aspect, Marco, I believe that it should also rotate, you know, even in the south and in the north. You know, it shouldn't just be stuck in southwest or northwest. It should rotate around the 6
geopolitical
zones. You know, so wanted to make that point. And then the question of weight here, you know, I think the APC people, you know, they just have to come up with a response. You know, what Makinde was saying that, look, we don't want. That's the essence of his message. We don't want, you know, to go back to those days. And it's perfectly in order to say that. I don't see any problem, you know. But of course, opposition, I mean, the APC must come up with a narrative and say, hey, that man wants to cause trouble. No. I see nothing wrong in what Makinde said at that meeting.
Ayo, over to you.
It's interesting that you're talking about Makinde when I am Ayo Makinde, but hey. So let's move from Ibadan to Lagos. Sure. Mr. Akande, there's some kind of interesting dynamic happening here now, particularly in this republic, where the deputy governor, for the first time in Lagos State, is likely to take over from the governor, because now there's some kind of consensus as far as the party is concerned, even though we know that another politician, an APC member, has picked up a nomination for. We'll come back to that if we can. But how interesting is this dynamic in your own opinion, particularly given the build-up to it?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that question, Ayo. I think that if we have a political selection process, you know, such as what seems to be emerging in Lagos, where you have people such as Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat emerging the way he is emerging, I can dare to say that we would not have so much problems with the political elite. Because what I find out, and it's somebody that I know very well, is that this is an exemplary public servant. If those who take the decisions about who should go forward, if they give us people like Hamzat, look, I am willing to say that Nigeria will not be where we are today. And I'll give 2 examples. So, if you look at that Lekki Bridge in Lagos, okay, there is not one single Nollywood movie that I have seen that does not showcase that bridge. Hamzat was central to the idea and the implementation of that bridge. Now, most people don't know, Lagos State managed to implement the Oracle software for automation of government business, pensions, salary, you know, payroll and all of that. Lagos State government managed to implement the automation Oracle software ahead of New York State in the early 2000s. Guess who was behind it? Hamzat was the person behind it. And there are several other things. So I am delighted, and I want to make this very clear, that if our political stakeholders, if they manage to throw up people like this, then you can see that we are going in the right direction. That's the first point. The second point I'd like to make is that, so you must commend the president, you know, because everybody knows that Lagos, you know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the biggest player there, you know. So the way in which this is being done is not saying that, okay, if somebody else is interested, we don't care. So it is a process that says that, well, look, I endorse this guy, and I have a right as an individual to support the candidate. I'm not saying that others cannot come out and contest, which is a very good model. So you have Jando, I understand, has also picked the form so that people can go to the field and determine what it is the result is going to be. Very excellent idea. So I am really delighted, Ayo, about the example that Lagos is showing. And like I said, if we have
I hear that,
selection
Mr.
process
Akande.
of who...
Yeah, my apologies for butting in. I get that, and I understand. But it's the political evolution that I'm actually talking about. Remember, when the president was governor in Lagos in 1999, he had a deputy, they had a fallout. The second term, his second term also, they had a fallout. I don't think there was any fallout between the governor and deputy when Mr. Fashola was, when BRF was governor in Lagos. I'm not sure there is any such thing also under Ambode. But not any of those deputies, if memory serves me right, you know, even got the nomination, much less became governor of the state. It's that political arrangement that I'm talking about. We are not seeing a situation where there's a fear that the governor is going to try to undo or outperform or even be a thorn in the wheel, or a thorn in the flesh of the governor when the deputy now gets into office, as has happened in some other states.
Yeah, you're right. It's quite also very notable because a lot of the times, you know, people who find themselves in office as vice president and deputy governors specifically, you know, it's a very tough job. You know, if you have ideas, you have to subsume your ideas, and people think that maybe you are too ambitious. So you haven't seen, even across the country, I think there are very few states where the deputy has gone ahead to be governor. I think the other known one is in Kano, where Ganduje, took over from Kwakwanso. So you are right, this is also a very good example. But I think we also have to give the credit to Governor Sanwo-Olu, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who actually made the statement, and I don't think a lot of people paid attention to it, that in Lagos they have a two-man governor. That tells you the kind of cohesion and the understanding that exists between Sanwo-Olu and Hamzat, and it has shown in the level of delivery and how government has been run. So yes, the political evolution also speaks to having people who can work together, having a governor like Sanwo-Olu who is not intimidated by a clearly, exemplary deputy who understands the issue, who has been a commissioner since I think maybe 2002 or 2003, doing great work both in the Lagos State and the federal government. So we have to give Sanwo-Olu the credit even for that.
Mm. Well, you clearly are quite enthused about the emergence of Mr. Dr. Hamzat as the governorship. Well, he's not yet candidate, but it does look like he's approaching that. Yeah. There's a consensus already towards that outcome. But do you think the voters will be as enthusiastic as the political class are? Do you think that they will share the enthusiasm which you have expressed about Dr. Hamzat?
Yeah, I mean, I think the voters or anybody at all in Lagos State should just look at the impact on the ground. What is it that this man has been able to do, which is the reason why, Don't
forget, it's not him. He's serving under the administration, or he's on a joint ticket with Babajide Sanwo-Olu, whose ratings, we don't do ratings here, but some people will put a question mark on it.
Well, I think while there may be critical issues, I think all of us agree that Lagos is still, quote unquote, the center of excellence. But to the point about Hamzat, so Hamzat didn't start, when he became deputy governor. Hamzat was a commissioner. As a matter of fact, the first commissioner in Nigeria to be given the portfolio in the state for science and technology, because of the technocratic expertise that it brought from the United States to do some of the automation, that I spoke about at a time when even advanced countries were not even onto it, So all through, then he became a commissioner again under Fashoda, which was when they built the Lekki Bridge. And then he was the one that also did the automation in about 12 hospitals in Lagos, which made healthcare delivery even more efficient. And there are a lot of things that I know because I pay attention to what is happening in the state that clearly shows that, from the get-go, this is the kind of people that we need in public service in Nigeria. And let us ask the political gladiators, please give us more of people like this.
Well, we'll wait and see, how the the voters eventually, will take what it is that you're saying. But we have to thank you for always sharing great insights with us here on Sunrise Daily. Mr. Laolu Akande, who is the presenter of Channels Television's Inside Sources and also a former presidential aide. Thank you once more for coming.
Thanks so much.